What's up guys, today we're here with the 2021 Chrysler Pacifica. Now we rented this car for the weekend, took it on a 300-mile road trip. So today I'm going to tell you all the things I love and hate about the Chrysler Pacifica. The first thing to discuss is interior space, and I definitely love the amount of space and the practicality of this space in the Pacifica. So first off, for passenger space in the second row, you can see I have an insane amount of leg room, lots of headroom and shoulder room. And it's the same back here in the third row as well. A little less leg room, but good space overall. And it's also really easy to get in and out of the third row in between the two captain's chairs. I can easily crawl out here. Now the exception is going to be if we have a car seat here. So that'll be something we talk about here in a minute. Next, let's look at cargo space. First with the third row seat up. And even though the Pacifica is not the biggest for minivans and three-row SUVs in terms of this space, it's still pretty good. We have our wagon here. This takes up a lot of the space in the back of our CX-5, and we can still fit our additional bags for our weekend trip very easily. Next, let's look at the ease to fold these second and third row seats down and the amount of space we have after that. And this is really where the Pacifica shines. So to fold our third row seat down, these fold down into the rear cargo area. This is pretty similar to a lot of minivans out there. We pull the bottom one and then the top one, and this folds in. Bottom and top. And there we go. Already we have a lot of space and pretty flat. Now in the second row, we really see the benefit of Chrysler's stow and go seating because no other minivans can do this. You either have to remove the second row seats or you just slide them or move them forward, but not completely flat into the floor like we see here. So we just remove our mat, and we've already slid the front seat all the way forward to make this work. But we just have this compartment in the floor, and when our seats are up, this is useful because it's a huge amount of storage space in here. We pull one strap here, and just like that, we have a fully flat floor. Within minutes, we can convert our minivan into a huge cargo van. So next, let's talk about car seat installation and space. And right off the bat, I have one gripe with installing our infant base through the latch system. So the latch hooks are right here, but you can see that they don't stick out much from the fabric. So actually, it's quite difficult to push these in. See how it's like the latch is grabbing onto the fabric, and it's hard to make sure that you've got it on. So we're often pulling our base in and out of our CX-5 as we're changing passengers, and this is just a lot easier in our CX-5. Not in, not in, not in, not in, in. Now let's look at our two rear-facing car seats installed. Here we have our Chico KeyFit 30 infant seat, and on the far side we have our Nuno Rava convertible seat installed rear-facing, and we can see we still have a lot of space here. So this is really great. In our CX-5, we'd be really compromised in our front seat. The front seat would be right up to here, and right here we have our driver's seat in position for me. I'm about 5'10", and still this massive amount of room. On our passenger side, we have our seat back really far, but we still have enough space in front of our Nuno Rava seat. But if we need our third row passengers to get in after we've installed our car seats, we still have an issue. It's a really tight squeeze if we come in front here. And Chrysler has a proposed solution to this called the Easy Tilt seating. So presumably if we tilt our seat forward like this, it will tilt forward even with the car seat and you can try to get in there. But you can see here, with our KeyFit 30, there's no way even a small child's getting in through there. So I would say this one's a little misleading advertising from Chrysler, and that doesn't work so well. So what we found is we have to basically let our third row passengers in before we've got our baby car seat in, and then put little baby in. But this is really only an issue for you if you've got two rear facing car seats. As you can see, now we've got our new Narava convertible seat turned around to forward facing, and we do have a decent amount of room here for kids or adults to squeeze in by. Also, this is basically a problem for almost all minivans and three-row SUVs out there, with one exception, the Honda Odyssey, which has a creative solution to this. So if you want to see a review for that, post a link in the description below. And finally, we didn't ride with our kids in the third row, but just to show you guys, we can fit our new Narava rear facing here. We have enough room. And we can fit our infant car seat back here too, but you can see what the real problem is getting your kids back here and strapped in is going to be a real challenge with either car seat in the third row. Next, let's talk about the things I like and don't like about the driving experience. I drove the Pacifica on a lot of windy back roads, and overall I like the power and the handling of the Pacifica, but I can't say I love it. There's no doubt I would prefer to drive a sports car on these roads, but the Pacifica was solid, no doubt a lot nicer to drive than the minivans and SUVs of 20 or 30 years ago. But let's get into some of the more practical aspects of driving the van. There are a few things I dislike. So even though driving at speed on highways, suburban roads, and rural back roads all pass the test for both me and my wife, there's no doubt that slow speed maneuvering in parking lots is a lot more difficult with the larger vehicle. And as you can see, here's my wife's first attempt to park the Pacifica. It wasn't that great. Now, I think the higher end Pacificas do offer a 360-degree camera, which may be helpful for a larger vehicle like this. So one thing I don't like is the position of the pedals. So to me, the brake pedal is awkwardly positioned higher than the accelerator pedal. This is different from a lot of the Hondas and Mazdas that I've owned in the past. And I really don't like it because I like to hover my foot over the brake and stop and go traffic. And it's just really not that comfortable with the brake pedal up so high. Now, another thing I don't like about the Pacifica is the position of the side view mirrors. They're a lot further back than I'm used to. In most vehicles, I'm used to them being more far forward. Now, I think this is good for the big blind spot that you have in a long vehicle like a minivan, but it is definitely further back in my peripheral vision and something that I need to get used to in driving the Pacifica. Okay, finally, let's talk about the position of the infotainment screen. So I find the screen is too close and a little lower than I find ideal. In our CX-5, the screen is up higher and further away. I find it a lot easier to glance over at the GPS directions without taking my eyes off the road. Now, I think this is an issue with most modern vehicles with a touchscreen because the screen has to be within reach of the driver's hands, whereas on the CX-5, the main control is a knob down here in the center console. But even so, because I feel like the seating position in the Pacifica is so upright, I feel like I'm really looking down at that infotainment screen. So now let's jump into the details of the infotainment screen. And there's no doubt this is overall a love for me, but there are a few things I dislike. So I believe our 2021 Pacifica is the first year that Chrysler brought the CX-5 system to the Pacifica. This is a really modern system, and it really shows we have a nice 10-inch screen, good resolution, and it's really snappy, jumping through the different menus, similar to using a smartphone. And while there are more and more manufacturers with very similar tech, it's not everyone across the board. Our 2019 CX5 is really way behind this And Mazda, even in their 2022 and 2023 models, still has pretty much the same system as their 2019. So this is somewhere Chrysler has done really well. In particular, the system does feature wireless Android Auto, which we really found to be an added convenience to not need to plug in your phone first when you get in your car to get your maps or your music going. All right, so one thing I don't like is when we're driving, the Android Auto Touch is actually fully disabled, and that means we can only use the audio if we want to change our directions or something like that. Now, we found this to be highly inconvenient when we wanted to stop at our favorite pho restaurant on our way home, and instead we almost had my wife inadvertently calling my ex-girlfriend. Finally, another thing that seems inconvenient, we do have a scroll feature, a scroll wheel here. Now, a lot of people might not care about this, but we're used to that with our Mazda, but we just don't like the positioning of this all the way over here on the passenger side. It's really far away from the driver and really not that practical to use. You might not care about it, but it was definitely something we didn't like. So that's what I like and dislike about the Chrysler Pacifica after driving it over 300 miles over the past weekend. Overall, on the Cars for Noobs scale, I give this a 3.5 out of 5, with a 1 being I would never buy it and 5 being I would go out and buy it tomorrow. I'm definitely looking to review more minivans and 3-row SUVs as we search for our next vehicle. So if you're interested, subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video.